Hello, everybody. Hello, hello. How we doing? I'm glad you're excited, Carrie. Excited, excited. Now you're gonna have to let me. That's not what I said. You're gonna have to let me know how the sound is. Hello, hello. Hi, Mary. Hey, Sketches. Hi, Jennifer. Okay. I'm nervous because new channel. New. Hey, Thrifty. Now, is the sound better than normal? Because I found my mic and I hope it's working. I had to like remind myself, hey, Peg, how are you? Yay. I had to remind myself how to use this thing. So let me know if you think it sounds like a little better than normal. Sounds good. Okay. I'll take good. I shall take good. That's gross. Um, yeah. So what I would love if you all would be so kind. We're in a transition phase here. Hello, Cheryl. Um, because new channel, just to give you a little background. Um, because I've done my best to get the word out, but like right now we only have 8 people here, which is very low compared to traditional numbers. So thank you, Peg. So if y'all could go and share this live, share it on Instagram, let people know, like, hey, don't forget, Christy's live over here. Please don't forget. That'd be great. I've done so much to make sure that people see this. But it's like, I don't know. So transition. Let me speak to that a little bit and let me speak to kind of what is going to happen moving forward, kind of what my ideas are, why I have switched up the channels if you missed. Good. So Kaylin got the link from the Watercolor Land email. That's awesome. We sent that yesterday. So if you're on the email list, you got the news. Well, as long as my email didn't go to your spam. So that's great. I also put it in stories. The one thing I think I forgot to do, which is I forgot to put it as a post over on the old channel. Okay, yeah, cool. All right. Email friends. Okay, we have 7 folks here. And I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here, but don't mind my whining. And I realize I'm fully aware that that's indeed what it is. It's whining. Yeah. So, okay. So why I've moved it to a new channel. Hey Gail, thank you so much for being here and finding the new channel. I thought it was interesting because like I think we were coming up on like 75 subscribers on this channel, and I'm like, oh, that sounds about right for about the number of people that are here with us live every week. So thank you, Thrifty, so much. I appreciate that so much. I know word will spread. I know it's fine. I'm probably gonna, what I can do too is put it into my permanent uploaded videos. Like every time I do one, I can be like, and hey, don't forget, lives have moved to blah blah blah. So, a little bit of housekeeping. This will be likely the last time that I do housekeeping at the beginning of the video, the lives. And this will help me tell you the story of why I changed things to this new channel. So I've been chatting with my editor. He's fantastic. At this point, the financials that my channel brings in from AdSense. And this is a lot that you may not want to know, but I've always like worn my heart on my sleeve. So I'm telling you because of that. But I always considered like what my channel brought in raw from ads on YouTube to be kind of just the cherry on top of my business, but it always covered my editing fees and then some monthly. And now it's not even covering half. Yes. Now, it's still okay. I'm keeping my editor on because, you know, I have other revenue streams, but it's been really tough. It's been really, you know, I've had to make budgetary, you know, I don't know why it's happening. So I've been strategizing with my editor, and he thought that it might be a good idea to put the lives, being that they're so different, being that sometimes people see the replay before he's able to edit it. I mean, usually it takes him up to 36 hours to edit the replay, and people come in. Remember those kind of nasty comments I was getting that one week? Like, what is all this swill? You know, that's my word, not theirs. You know, they were annoyed. They're like, what is all this? So on the replay, and I've always said replay experiences are important for YouTube. So what? Okay. I appreciate that, Thrifty. Yeah, because views have been down. And that's, you know, that's why, you know, AdSense isn't bringing in as much because views are down. Like that Dahlia video that I posted 2 weeks ago, 45 minutes straight, lovely, straightforward tutorial has 2,700 views, which for my channel, typical, I'm seeing at least like 5 to 10,000 views on a video of that nature. So yeah, now summer is typically a difficult time. Anyway, I'm not going to get into it, but I do feel as my core community, you deserve to know why these changes are happening. It has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with, oh, Christy's going to phase out lives. No, because I've been asked that a lot. I've even been asked more than I would expect if I'm just going to abandon YouTube entirely. And no, not happening. It's just one of those moments in business where you just have to like sort things out, and it's a sorting it out phase. It's a sorting it out season. So we make changes. Cheers to that. This is seltzer, by the way. So, so in addition to that change, and anything you could do, like if you're someone who posts on Instagram somewhat regularly, take a screenshot of like when I start painting and be like, hey, y'all, don't forget, or I've talked about Christy, or you got to come check out Christy's new live channel. She goes live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Like if you could do something along those lines, it would be awesome. Anything you could do to help spread the word about the new channel, I would appreciate you so much. Hey, Deb. Hey, Tammy. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Tammy, on Watercolor Land. I appreciate it. Even though Watercolor Land is my own group, sometimes my posts don't get much traction in there. So funny. So thank you so much. So in addition to trying to help the whole live and then replay experience, because I think what's happening is that live streams are becoming more and more heavily produced. So live streams are starting to feel more like edited videos. And so people come into the live replay experience, even knowing it's a replay, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is just fun. So what I talked about with my editor is to come into the live. Now, it didn't happen today by design, but come into the live from now on and just get right into it. I'm going to do an intro. I'm going to intro the topic. I'm going to do a little bit of the topic, get into it probably for about 10 minutes or so. And then I will do like mail time, housekeeping, all that kind of thing. So that way, hopefully by the time, if someone comes in on the replay, they'll be like, oh, this is cool. And then if they do happen to get to the replay before that middle now part has been edited out, they might be more likely to continue watching or fast forward a bit. So yeah, because what we think is happening is we're getting a lot of drop off. People come in, they just see me chatting about nonsense to them, and they're just like, click away. And that the algorithm doesn't like that. That tells the algorithm that I got nothing to say. So thank you for listening to all of my nonsense. I appreciate you more than you could know. I do just want to put a shout out there regarding the advent calendar. Y'all supported that advent calendar launch like I can't believe. Just blew my mind. It rivaled, it seriously rivaled an Amazon launch. And that's hard to do because there's so many eyes on Amazon. So y'all, like, seriously. Thank you, Carrie. Yay. So yes. So today we are talking about value. I do have some housekeeping stuff. I finally opened up all of these designs by Rachel Beth paints. And so I think I'm gonna paint with them today. I think I have been for funsies. I pulled out my big Schminka palette. Okay, get ready for this. Some of you have seen this, but like, what? Schminka is my largest collection by far. I think it's because of their granulation sets, because I have all of them, but it's just huge. It's absolutely massive. So I pulled that out for a video. The newest video that I've done is going live sometime probably this weekend, or Monday, somewhere in there. And I pulled it out and I kept it out because, as you know, many of you know, I've been painting with this one for quite a while. And I just felt like I needed a change, and I've been really enjoying the Schminka. Actually, I'm going to take these travel brushes out of here. So remember to use them, not just in this palette. So yeah, it's Schminka time now. So I'll be using Schminka for a while. I do have a new vintage tin I pulled out that needs some paints in it. So I think I'm going to put the Rachel Beth's in there. And this one cute, super cute, a little goofy. So yes. Oh my gosh. And the advent calendar, let me tell you, I don't know if you saw on Instagram, but I am working with another paint maker. They are providing us, they are sponsoring a 13th day, which means the price isn't changing. All of y'all who've already pre-ordered, like, everyone's getting an extra day, an extra gift to open, and it is sponsored by this paint maker. I was like, I came to her wanting to do a 13th day as a fun surprise. And I think I'm gonna have to make it a 14th day because I don't like the number 13, but I'm getting there. But I was like, and she was like, I'm just gonna provide it. I'm like, no, I pay, you know. So yeah, really excited. I'll give, since you are my 16 loyal community members, I'm going to give you a hint. It might have something to do with this. If you were listening, this paint maker might have something to do with her. Anyway. So very stoked about that. Yeah, I think this advent calendar situation is just going to be a joy. Joy, 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 down in my soul. I don't know, I just made up a song. So how's everyone feeling? How are we doing? It is a time in which we need so much of the thing that we know how to do, so much of the joy. We know how to chase the joy, right? It is a time in which we need it so bad, so hard, so much. So I'm glad you're here with me. All right? I'm so glad you're here with me. Cheryl, I'm so glad that you're excited. Gail is excited. Mary, everybody's excited. Yes, we're all excited. It's good to have things to be excited about, to look forward to remember. Like, people say like go out and touch grass. Well, I mean touching grass is fabulous. I agree. But also like just go out and touch some paint. All right. Yes, Ray. I am streaming on the new channel today. The new channel is called Watercolor Land. Sketches and Thrifty, I don't have you set up as mods yet on this new channel. But Ray, I think the easiest way is just find me, go on Instagram in my stories and grab the link from there. I have the link active in my stories. Oh, Mary. Well, I'm glad I make the cut. I'm so glad I make the cut. Ooh, a craft sale for next weekend. Ooh. Like, Peg, like you're making stuff to like sell? Yeah. Mm-hmm. That sounds like fun. Fall is the time to harvest and plant new seeds. Dang. So true. Oh, I have another announcement. It's kind of two, but in one. You're welcome, Ray. Um, What it's also looking like is that YouTube just released some new announcements, and I've been listening to different creators to hear their take on these announcements. All good things, really cool stuff that YouTube is going to be releasing over the next year. But it's really looking like YouTube really enjoys when a creator posts at least once a week. And it seemed like long form. So lives kind of don't count, shorts kind of don't count. So even though my AdSense revenue isn't covering my editor's costs right now, um, I am seriously looking at the reality of going back to a once a week upload of actual videos, not just, lives and things like that. So, yeah. So now, does that mean I may need to cut back on lives? Potentially. I just have to see how quickly. I think initially I probably won't cut back on lives, but I just What about now? Oh, it's back. I can tell. Yeah, it disconnected from Bluetooth. They're all charged. They've been charging for like 2 weeks. So, yeah. So, hi. Hi. Ray, you're in the right spot. So, yeah. So, I think what I'm going to do is plan to try to ramp up my uploads. My goal is going to be once a week again. Um, and that may take a little time for me to ramp up and get my bearings. Um, and I'm probably going to keep my live schedule. I think I'm going to keep my live schedule until further notice. But what may happen is I think I'm just going to need to maybe make the lives a little more succinct, a little bit less. I'm hoping for my editor to have to edit. Yeah. So, yeah. Cool. Yeah. All right, friends. Yes, we are back. We are back. So let me do my intro. We're going to go down to the painting table. We're going to get right down to business. Okay. Jennifer, did you see that I did cover some of this? I did still answer your question. Oh, you didn't see because I didn't post the replay yet for Patreon. So never mind. Never mind. Never mind. Did y'all know? Squirrel moment. This is one of the best-selling palettes on Amazon when you type in the keyword watercolor paint sets, which is one of the most traversed keywords, key phrases in the watercolor palette space. Does anybody have this? I'm thinking for a future video. I feel like it needs to be talked about because what that tells me, if this is one of the best-selling, like probably the best-selling, the last time I looked. Yeah, so if this is the best selling and it performs like I think it might, I have never used it, but if it performs like I think it might, I'm concerned for the watercolor curious of the land. Thrifty, should I be concerned? Should I be concerned if this is what a lot of people are buying when they're just like, oh, watercolor, let me try that? From different brands. Yes, be concerned. Yeah, okay. Because this one, this one is the one. It's this all Arteco brand. So anyway, I'm thinking about perusing that for a video to help some folks out. What is happening? What is happening? Okay, so all right, let's do the intro. And we're gonna get right down to it. All right. Okay, sketches. When I started watercolor, bought the Amazon recommended top selling watercolor. It was trash. Okay, great. See? And it's top recommended because they're paying for PPC and then they get, because they're, buying begets buying no matter how the buying is initiated. And then it's just, it's a cycle. Yeah, okay, great. We need to talk to people. Wonderful. Okay. Great. Okay, I'll have to watch that one, Michelle, so I don't want to be copying. Good to know, thank you. No, my mic was not unplugged. Why are you... Can you all still hear me? Yeah, okay. Good heavens. Okay, here we go. Weird intro. Friends, my name is Christy Rice, and today we are going to talk about value, which is how light or dark something is. And when you're a beginner in watercolor, value can seem like a scary word, and it kind of harks to drawing skills, and then you're like, I don't have those, and you freak out. But I'm going to simplify it for you today. And for my replay friends, welcome, welcome. You're going to see things flash up on the screen. You're going to hear me talking to folks just know that you can get involved in the conversation. Just know that you can also get involved in the conversation, head into comments, ask questions. This community is fantastic. And yeah, let's just get painting. All right, here we go. Okay. All right, we need some paper. So using Schmenka today, look at this baddie. She's so big, she doesn't even fit in the frame. But the reality is, you do not need a big palette. We're going to be in a use what you have, use what you love kind of mindset, which is always the mindset I encourage. I don't want anyone panicking about what they have, what they don't have. Today is about value, and we're going to be making really kind of intense versions of our watercolor colors and very light versions. And so let's just start there to talk about value. Now, traditionally speaking, you think about value oftentimes in a conversation about sketching, and you might see things like spheres, and we're going to draw the sphere and we're going to make it, you know, super shadowy over here, right? And we're going to blend it out and make it super light over here, and our light source. I mean, does any of this say familiar, or just say yes? Familiar is hard to spell. You know, you see this kind of stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so boring. Or you see an egg. I see eggs a lot. You know, draw the sphere, do the shading, you know, your darkest value to your lightest value, right? You might also see value scales where you take a single pencil and you slowly try to alleviate the pressure. Now, this is on watercolor paper, friends, so it's clearly going to have some texture. But a value scale in traditional sketching exercise, and you try to go light, 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 pressure almost down to nothing. So again, your darkest value, your lightest value. That is kind of the traditional value conversation in sketching and so forth. Friends, can you hear me? I'm just making sure. I don't see the chat moving, so I just want to make sure everyone can hear me. Just give me a yes or a something. All right. Yep. Okay, great. Super. All right. So I did spray down my palette. My goal right now, and I'm actually going to use a little bit of this red that is all the way up here in my palette, because I can see that it's pretty intense. I can see that I'm getting a lot of color with just a little bit of water added. So you choose whatever that is in your palette. If you've been painting for even like a month, you already know like what color in your palette is that color that kind of just, you could just touch it with a damp brush and it just moves. Choose that color today and get a little lazy rectangle on your paper. All right, lazy rectangle, and try to make that rectangle as red and is not see-through, as opaque as you can. All right, and then I want you to just get a little water on your brush. I want you to go right next door and do a little something like that. Now I'm going to blot that off, and I want you to go right next door and pull it out. And I want you to rinse your brush. I'm doing mine off camera. You can hear it. Go right next door, pull it out. Same thing, rinse. I rinsed off camera. Go right next door, pull it out, and then just continue that. Okay, now this is a technique that I definitely go over quite a bit in my beginning watercolor videos here. This is called, what I call ombre. Traditional title of this technique is pulling, because you're pulling the color, But it is also a very distinct color value scale. Okay? This is your darkest value, and this is your lightest. All made from one color and different amounts of water, right? Hey, Kim, welcome. I'm so glad you're here. Is there anybody else here that's new? Stay new. We'd love to officially welcome you. All right, so that is a very, does anybody have, because this is a very like just scratching the surface, and like we're not going super like rabbit hole deep today, but we're going to go deep enough. So anybody have questions based on what I've already shown you here? Let me know. Happy to address those questions if you have them. I think I'm actually going to turn my palette. That's the only thing with this massive palette. It's like, where do I put my paper? My hand is resting on the sharper edge of all that. Like, so I'm going to do, oh yeah, hello. It's like I have a little tray for my paper. How cute. So let me know. Let me know if you're feeling a little bit like, what? Huh? What? Help. I want to hear it. If you need some help, please say help. All right? All right. Great. Okay. So, hi, waving. Yay. Okay. So, there is another way to think about value when it comes to color, not just grayscale. So I'm going to go back to that same red, right? I'm going to lay it down. I am using my 3/4 inch dagger brush. It's called the It's Just Paper brush. If you are new and not familiar with my brushes, all the information about them is in the links below in the description. But essentially, let's just make another lazy rectangle. And then I want you to think about your favorite green, okay? I know. Actually, let's do it a little differently. Let's make a lazy long rectangle. And I want this long rectangle to be all the same value. All the same value. So the whole thing, there shouldn't be a light to dark feeling happening. It doesn't have to be perfect. But just when your eye scans from left to right, I want it to feel like, okay, yeah, that's all the same darkness, intensity, because we're dealing with color here, right? All right? All right, I'm getting a little extra. I'm being a little extra. Same value. Now, how can we turn this into a color value scale without using just water? I'm grabbing a green. Green and red are opposite of each other on the color wheel. What happens when you mix colors that are opposite each other on the color wheel? Basically, you get a dulled down version of one of the colors, depending on the ratio. I still want this to read as red, but just a darker red over here. So I'm going to dab in a bit of the green. Dab, dab. Now, if I were to overload this and it became close to an even mix of red and green, it would essentially turn brown. But because I'm just adding measured amounts of this green, it is looking like a darker red. Now, of course, where I laid that little bit extra down there, but I'm just very light pressure tapping it in. All right? Now, you could try this. We could even do a little blue. It doesn't have to be with an opposite on the color wheel, right? But I want you to try this. I want you to play around with this looking like a value study. It looks weird right now. It looks like a petri dish. I'm aware. I'm going to add some red back in. But I want you to try to make your leftmost area, let's say the leftmost third of this long rectangle, I want you to make this look like the darkest area of this long rectangle. Now keep in mind, if you're painting on a loose sheet like I am, okay, it's gonna be starting to bow and you might start to get puddles like I am. So you just need to like push those puddles around. If you're painting on a block or you have your paper taped down, you're not gonna have the same intensity of that problem. But looky here, all right? So we have a darker value of this red. Now, how do we get a lighter value of this red? Traditional watercolor would tell us not to use white, but we certainly could. But instead, let's go ahead and just do some lifting over here. Now, is this a staining color? It doesn't appear to be intensely staining. So I'm going to lift it out, just added clean water over top, and then lift and blot. Squeegee, blot off camera on a paper towel, squeegee, blot off camera on a paper towel. Now, the reason I do this exercise and the way that I'm doing it is for you to start to immediately understand the practical ways in which we might manipulate values, create values in our paintings, the real ways that that might happen. And that is going to be through a general sense of color, the color wheel, and or lifting. Does that make sense? Let me know if it makes sense. Just go ahead and say yes. If you have a question, by all means. All right. Yay, Kaylin, awesome. Hey, Val. Oh, thank you so much. I am slowly working on a new paint palette for 2026 release. Yes, I am. All right, so let's talk about another way to address value. So same red color, and let's go ahead and do a long rectangle again, but lighter. Now we are going to need to let this one dry. This is a technique called glazing. I do like to teach techniques, and you might find, if you're new here, you might find my way of teaching, the way that I present techniques, a little confusing or jarring at times, because I purposely teach techniques in a way that helps connect dots. And what that means in, you know, a language that makes sense is that so many of watercolor techniques overlap and they connect with one another. And I like to find those kind of non-traditional connections and bring them to light, right? So in traditional watercolor value conversations, you might see someone showing you how to do a value study, which is paint a composition with all one color. And that is a fantastic exercise. But I like to bring in technique, actual specific singular techniques, and show how we manipulate value with those techniques as a way to hopefully trigger some more brains, because we all know all the brains work differently, right? Yeah. So if you're feeling a little like, wait, what's she doing? I've never learned it this way. Just stick with me. Just stick with me. What am I doing here? I'm just trying to use a little bit of gravity and let my puddle kind of disperse in this area. See how that's coming up? Really sweet. All right, that is still very much damp, so much so that I've got to get rid of my fingerprints here. All right, lovely. So I'm going to grab my filbert. This is from my Free from Fear. While this is drying, I'm going to grab my filbert, and this is my dive right in, because I kind of just want to do a press and lift type situation. We're going to do a very different type of value study, a value exercise, if you will, right now. So stick with me. I'm going to start with this red. We're going to do a traditional value scale. I showed you the one in pencil at the beginning, dark to light. We're going to try to make a dark red to a light red, but I want to use paint in every addition. Okay? If it doesn't make sense, watch me. Watch me. All right, first one. That's our first one. This is going to be our darkest one. All right, let's see how this goes. Got to see how this goes. All right. I actually want to start a little darker, so I'm going to put a little blue in this one. Get a little more red going. something similar to up here. A little bit of that green that I used. And remember, friends, it does not matter which colors you're using, just, which exact colors you're using. If you want to follow along with me, stick with the reds and the blues and so on. But don't worry about, I'm not calling out color names. Okay, we got like a rusty brick, cinnabar-ish kind of. All right, our next square needs to be a little bit less intense, a little bit lighter. So let's see what we can do. But remember, I don't want to just do it by, less paint on my brush, which is where I'm starting here. It's definitely lighter, but it's just less paint on my brush. So how could I do this? I could use the same blue, but maybe just a little less. Let's see how that works. Same green, but maybe just a little less. So maybe we're attacking it from a sheerness perspective, but remember, we want a gradual shift. Now we're going to do one more of these, and then I'm going to explain a little bit more why doing it this way I think is helpful. Okay? These transitions should be very gradual. All right, so we see it already. Darkest, slightly less dark. All right? Yes, Kaylin, the lemon lesson. The lemons that changed your life, I think. Yeah. Absolutely. Did a lot of glazing in that lesson. Yes. Okay. Let's do the next one. And notice I am starting with the same red each time. Lazy little square. All right. Now remember, I want to add a color. How are we going to make this lighter? Maybe I'll just try green. I'm going to take the same green. I'm going to push this up a smidge. Same green. That might be too much, but when your paper is damp or wet, it's always an opportunity time. Now, I don't know. This is this is a challenging exercise, but here is why I think it is so valuable. Instead of I could do this easily by just adding, not reloading paint each time I was going to make a new rectangle or square, but just adding more water. Easy color value scale, but I want it to be different. Is that lighter? It's close. I think we might need a little of the blue, and then we might need to just remove some. Now, I'm not adding water. See, and that's even too much removed. So let me get back to why I'm doing it this way. Why I'm asking you to add paint to each square. Because again, when we are actually painting a composition, when we are in the thick of it with a painting, these are the kind of decisions we're making, right? Especially if you've been with me a while, you know how I paint. I am not a traditional watercolor painter, and I actually get nervous when beginner watercolor artists try to learn from uber tradition, because it's very inflexible. It's like water and paint, that's it. White of the paper, that's it. But in reality, I feel that painting with all the tools in your arsenal to get the look you want is where you want to be as a beginner. Learn the basics, learn the tradition quickly. Don't live there. Continue to experiment, build your arsenal, use it, and then come back to tradition if you feel so inclined, if you feel so inspired. Continue to learn, continue to deepen your understanding of the traditional basics. But this is how we actually create value in our real painting. Everybody with me? You're with me? Just type Y. All right, let's do the next one. And remember, I'm not just playing with water and paint here. I want you to add additional colors to make the thing happen. Now, I have pastels on this palette. Awesome. Why? Thanks, Thrifty, Galen, Cheryl, Kim. Wonderful. All right. Now I have to add another color to this, but I think I'm at the point where I need to add a pastel. But I'm going to go with a colorful pastel at this point, just white. So let's do that. Now, a pastel watercolor, by its nature, is going to have white built into the formulation. This one I think is PW6. It's a common one. Pigment white 6. All right. I'm going to add a little bit of the blue. So I added the cotton candy-ish pink pastel. I added a little bit of the green, and I'm going back in with a little bit of the blue that I've been using. Is it lighter? I'm saying no. So I'm going to add a little bit more of this pink. And then I'm going to sweep away the top layer while it's all still damp. Now it's lighter. I feel like I want it to be a little smoother, so just one more little sweep. All right, let's continue. Do you see where I'm going here? Is anybody having an aha? If you're having an aha, type ha. It's okay if nobody has an aha, no pressure. All right, starting with the same red. And let's just face it, I think I need to stick with a little bit of the green, a little bit of the blue. Let's just realize that, because that has been the rule so far. Okay? And I think I want to add a little bit of a lighter pastel. It's got more white in the formulation, less pigment, this peach one here. Peachy yellowy. I'm going to add that one. Now it might change the color too much. I don't actually have a white watercolor here. Yeah, it's changing the color a lot, which I don't love. But let's see if we can make it work. But that's the exercise. And this is the reality, friends. When we're painting, yes, we're thinking about shadows. Where do I paint this shadow? How do I make this flower center, this part of the landscape look darker? Like it's going to the back instead of coming to the front. How do I, what is the shape of the shadow? What should the shape of the shadow be so this feels like a convincingly loose, juicy watercolor flower, rose, whatever it might be? All of that, all of those questions that you are saying to yourself or maybe out loud, come back to this kind of habit. Finding colors, using your water, using your techniques of layering, using lifting, it all comes back to these techniques. So I feel, yes, let me finish this. I feel, and in my experience, that isolating value, whatever technique, what's the word I'm looking for? Whatever element of the art practice you are trying to understand. Today's conversation is about value. That is the element of learning, right? To isolate that element and learn about it only in one way. For example, the one way would be adding water to lighten your value, traditional. That is putting yourself at a detriment. I don't like to isolate the techniques, the elements. I like to create bridges between them. I feel like it provides a more robust understanding. Yes, Cheryl, when you lift the pastel, you can regain the transparency. Yes. I find that, though, lifting while it's still damp gives you a better result, a more clean, shearer effect. All right? Okay. That was a little intense. I'm not going to lie, but it was so good. I really think it stretched your brain. I feel the stretching. All right? Okay. I've noticed lately I've been starting to say all right, a lot in my transitions. I don't know why. All right. There, I just said it. My son is outside the window. He's going to be a goofball. Stop it. He's doing a cheer. You're a goof. Go away. Goodbye. Goodbye, goofball. Goodbye. Okay. So I did say that I wanted to put my new Designs by Rachel Beth paints in here, and I would like to paint with them today. So let's take a breather and let's put these in. So I purchased two of her like recent releases, and they're very like fall-ish, so I'm just going to organize these as best as I can think. That makes sense based on the visual, like what I'm seeing of the color. These magnets aren't terribly strong, but oh, these don't fit in this tin. No, they don't. I think the quarter pans would have fit, but these don't. I know what I need to use. I need to use a deeper tin, and I know exactly which one I'm gonna use. All right, this one. Ooh, the magnets are sticking better in that one too. Very cool. Yay, Kim. I'm glad that's helpful. I'm assuming that's what that means. All right, and I did grab, I wanted to get quarter pans of all, but they weren't all still available in quarter pans. So, you know, what's a girl to do? Just get what you got. Now, I have other Designs by Rachel Beth, so I'm going to grab them right now. Actually, I have one in here. So I'm going to have to dismiss her. Oh, I thought it was in here. Oh, no, it's not in here. Where'd it go? Uh-oh. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. Oh, well. Oh, we'll just paint with these. I don't know where it's at. All right. So let's do a little value study. Traditional value study, and then we're going to go back to the glazing way of approaching value. All right? All right. Here we go. I want to do this orange, and I'm going to do a pumpkin. Oh, that's gorgeous. All right. So, value study, one color to accomplish all the things. Oh, that is so just crispy. That is a crispy, it's like a fresh Diet Coke popped open. Speaking of beverage, I need some. All right, little pumpkin, same color. Let me just have this here so you know I'm not playing. I'm using this one. So, highly recommend a value study. Emma did one, I think, earlier this year as one of her main vids. Super helpful. I did one last year with blues, that big blue challenge with the tiles, and it teaches you so much about your values and really how to spot your lights and your darks and how to represent them because you have such limited supply. So my page is damp now, so I'm going in and I'm really got a lot of paint on that brush right now, not a lot of water because I already know I have dampness on my page. And if I were to add more water, I'm just going to get a lighter version of this orange, which I don't want. So let me just rinse my brush. I can do some blending here. Just trying to get as much depth as possible. That is my goal, to make it look as bulbous and pumpkin-y as possible. Adding in these pumpkin ribs. Just one color. One color. This color seems to be lifting. Okay, but it does seem to have some staining quality. So that is something to keep in mind if you're doing a value study and you know that a color of yours that you're using, when you put it down, it tends to stay put. You may want to choose a different color for your value study. Now, even though I liked the look of that area, I'm lifting out some of this orange just as some insurance, right? I'm also going to lift here a bit, just some clean-ish water. This color is kind of granulating a little, or separating. I'm not sure which, if it's more of a separator or a granulator, but it's doing a something. I'm going to get a little bit more of yeah, I want to drop this one down a little. I'm almost kind of drawing with it, being kind of tentative. It's allowing me to be a little more tentative. And then I'm going to blend this up and see how I feel about it. That might just be too odd. You still have to tackle all the normal things that you would shape and proportion and all that kind of jazz. It's not just about value. Pulling that out, lifting. All right, that's kind of an interesting little quirk there. But do you see how that dimension is popping? That dimension is coming. And I'm only using one color. If you are not following Designs by Rachel Beth already, friends, I really would love for you to find her literally how it sounds. It's Designs by Rachel Beth. She's on Insta, she's on Etsy, and she does really cool kind of themed palette, so to speak. I think that's a fair assessment of how she does things. Ooh, I'm liking this. All right, you know those pumpkins that are just more, for lack of a better word, they're just more craggy, like the ribs on them aren't like super clean and symmetrical, and yeah, I'm thinking more craggy pumpkin. A little bit of water on my brush, and I'm just going right up alongside with some contrast detailing. Cleaning out that brush a little more. I'm going to lift some of this out. I don't want that as pointy down there. Is anybody painting along with me? Let me know. I'm going to remove some of this. I'm working slowly, definitely more methodically than I normally do. I'm giving myself time to make decisions. Yes, Carrie is painting with me. Yay! All right. So after I kind of have gone through and done this first layer, because really I've just considered this all like a first layer. I'm going to go through with a smaller brush, I think, and then just add in. Actually, I might do one more. Let's water this down a bit on the palette. A little more water, and I'll do a second layer that is like mid-tones. Just intensify those mid-tones, which is, mid-tone would be your halfway point from between darkest, lightest. If anyone has anything to add on value, by all means, add it, speak up. I am not the only person here that has something to teach, all right? Absolutely, toodalutely. All right, we got our craggy pumpkin here. I don't even think I need to go to a smaller brush to do what I'm thinking I want to do. Keep it simple, sweetie. So at this point in a value study, my goal is always to like go back and see those darkest areas and see if any areas within those darkest areas, those darkest values, could be intensified. I mean, obviously you don't want to intensify all the areas because then you'll lose your depth, you know, so you want to think of select spots. Now, if you're wondering, I've been working just from my head. This is an imaginary pumpkin. I don't have a reference photo, but a reference photo is fantastic. That is actually something you can do if you're very new to value studies. You could print out your reference photo, but in black and white. Oh, Cheryl, I'm so glad it's helpful. Yeah, sometimes the watching is so helpful, and then go through again on replay and give it a go yourself. So yeah, if you are a person that, cannot picture things in your mind's eye, I know there's a name for that. And I know we have quite a few folks in our community that have that condition, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if it's called a condition. Just spoke with someone the other day that struggles with that. So print out an inspiration photo. You might want to up the contrast a little bit, adding some mid-tone there. Black and white. And you are going to, it's basically like a cheat code to discovering your values. And I don't consider it cheating whatsoever. It's just a way to say it that we're all going to remember, right? Right. And just slowly adding in those values. And you can go back in. And again, always try to go back into those. I'm going to go a smaller brush. I'm going to go with my number 2 round from my Art for Joy's Sake brush collection, the Happy Painting brush. And we're really going to get in there. And I'm going to load this brush up. It is a syrupy consistency at this point. And I'm going to go into my darkest areas and see if there's any opportunity for making them darker, for adding any more detail. Could have a little bit there, but not the whole area. It's almost becoming a little too much, so I'm going to pull back and see, maybe I need to add a little more mid-tone somewhere. Where might that be? I think a little here. We're losing a little depth here. So just a little shadow there. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you want to put a shadow like on the ground. I might regret doing this, but that's okay. There's definitely not a distinct sense of where the light is coming from in this one. It almost looks like the light is coming right from the front. So there's that. That's okay. It's going to give you a little less contrast. Go down in here and see. And can you see, y'all, we're losing some of the contrast. I definitely think adding that shadow assisted with that loss. But just things to take note of. These aren't failures. These are learning points. These are learning points for sure. All right. Oh, good, Kim. I'm so glad. Aw, that's awesome, Kim. I'm glad you're here. So there is our value study. So I do recommend doing a traditional one color value study, where you are just using one paint and different fluctuations of water. Super helpful. All right, let's go back to this one. And let's kind of do a value study by glazing. And I think I'm going to use my Unshakable Joy. That's my 3/4 inch flat wash brush. And I'm going to go back to the green. I'm actually going to mix some of that green and some of that blue that I was using. Actually, shoot, it was this blue that I was using before. I'm going to mix some of it in, and I'm going to glaze over top. So this is all dry. Thin layers. Glazing is a technique we stole from oil painters. There we have it. All right. That's a way to make it darker. Another layer, even when it's wet. You'd get more intensity if you waited until that whole thing dried, but you could lift within that glaze. Look at that. All right, let's just glaze over a different red. Something a little more pinky. Let's see what happens. So you can make a same color more intense by using a more vibrant, more saturated color. Let's see what happens when we just do a glaze of green. Then it's starting to become green because we don't have enough red underneath. But if I keep swiping it and blending, it's kind of a muddy red. It's giving green still. But there we go. Now it's more of a muddy red, right? Let's go up here. What would happen if we put that same green? We kind of just have a balanced amount of paint and water on the brush. Same green over that. Ooh, we need more because that red is so intense. That red is so powerful. Now you can see it's still very much releasing. So I'm getting a color mix at this point. But we intensified its value with a green, and it is not giving green up here. It's just giving darker. Don't these look so pretty? Like, they look so pretty. just how they are. Yeah, so pretty. And let's do a pastel over that. I'm going to take that pink I was using before. I'm going to overlap these two. You still have some sheerness, you can tell, but not a ton. And that wasn't enough of a difference to change the color underneath. We're learning so much, so much. Now, one thing to note, with all these different ways of playing with value, you're getting a different look to your watercolor. Some will call it muddy. I don't necessarily. This is more of a clean, traditional, sheer, whimsical, all the adjectives, right? So you have to decide which one's for you, or a hybrid of the two. All right. What questions do we have, friends? I am here for you. And if you think of questions as you're watching the replay, don't forget to get in the comment section and to say, hey, I don't get this. Hey, I think this was unnecessary. Hey, what is wrong with just water and paint, right? Right. So there you have it, friends. This is your mini deep dive into color, value, watercolor, and all the things in between. I will say I'll drop the lesson in the description here, my kind of intro to watercolor, my kind of mastermind video, in case you come across this replay and you really want to understand some of the techniques that I was connecting the dots with today. So definitely check down there. And friends, thank you so much for being here with me today. And just keep up with it. Keep at it. We need the joy. We need the joy so stinking bad. Okay? And you found the joy. You know the secret sauce. You know the secret sauce. You do, you do, you do. So stick with it. Get your magic cups out. Get your supplies at the ready in all different places. So you always have no excuses to not chase after the joy that you know you can harness. All right. Happy painting. Bye.